Another year has passed. Another set of resolutions made and broken. Another list of dreams pushed to the side, buried beneath distractions, fear, and excuses. How many more years are you willing to waste waiting for the perfect time? How many more chances will you let slip through your fingers, hoping opportunity knocks twice? Bills in tone. The truth is, time doesn't wait. The clock is ticking. And while you hesitate, someone else is out there grinding, building, believing, turning their vision into reality. You say you want more. You feel like you're meant for something greater. But wanting isn't enough. Feeling isn't action. And dreams mean nothing without work. Stop lying to yourself. Stop blaming your past, your boss, your parents, the economy, or bad luck. Own your future, or stay a prisoner of your present. Time is the most valuable asset you have. Unlike money, status, or material possessions, time is something you can never get back once it's gone. Every second that passes is gone forever, whether you used it with intention or let it slip through your fingers. We often speak of waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity, the right mood, the right feeling, as if success is something that waits for us to feel ready. But that mindset is a trap. The perfect time doesn't exist. It never has, and it never will. Waiting for it only leads to more waiting. And before you know it, days become weeks, weeks become months, and suddenly you're staring down another year that looks just like the last one. Procrastination disguises itself as planning. We convince ourselves that we're just waiting until we're more prepared, more experienced, or more financially stable. We promise ourselves that next Monday we'll start. Next month we'll commit. Next year we'll finally go after what we really want. But deep down, we know the truth. It's not a lack of readiness, it's fear. Fear of failing, fear of judgment, fear of stepping into the unknown, and so we stay stuck. But here's the thing, fear doesn't disappear the longer you wait. It grows. It becomes louder, more convincing, more paralyzing, and time keeps moving whether you move with it or not. The people who succeed in life don't wait for perfect timing. They act in spite of fear, in spite of uncertainty. They understand that momentum is more powerful than waiting. They start with what they have, where they are, and build as they go, because they know something that most people forget. The opportunity of a lifetime isn't something you find, it's something you create by showing up and doing the work consistently. We live in a culture obsessed with shortcuts and overnight success, but the reality is, nothing meaningful happens without time, effort, and consistent progress. And yet, even knowing this, people spend entire years stuck in a cycle of distraction, avoidance, and regret. They let social media, entertainment, and other people's opinions drain their energy. They stay in comfort zones that feel safe but slowly suffocate their potential. They measure time by what they didn't do, rather than what they dared to try. And while all of this is happening, the clock doesn't care. The days keep moving, the seasons change, another birthday comes, another year closes. And all of the potential you had, all the goals you thought you'd chase remains untouched, waiting for a decision you never made. You don't need more time. You need more urgency. Not panic, not pressure, but clarity. A recognition that if you don't do something now, you'll be in the same place telling the same story, just with more regret and fewer chances to rewrite it. One of the hardest truths to accept is that your life is the result of your own choices. It's easier to point fingers at circumstances, at people, at luck, and say, this is why I'm not where I want to be. But that mindset only keeps you stuck. Blaming external forces might protect your ego, but it steals your power. The moment you hand over responsibility, you also hand over the ability to change anything. And that's the cost. Comfort in the short term for helplessness in the long run. Responsibility isn't about guilt or shame. It's not about beating yourself up for past mistakes. It's about reclaiming control. It's about stepping up and saying, even if it's not my fault, it's still my responsibility. That shift changes everything. Because once you accept responsibility for where you are, you also accept that you have the power to change where you're going. You stop waiting for someone to fix it, to notice you, to save you. You stop needing permission. A lot of people confuse responsibility with blame, but they're not the same. Blame is about the past. Responsibility is about the future. Blame looks backward, analyzing what went wrong. Responsibility looks forward and asks, what can I do now? That question is powerful. That question puts the wheel back in your hands. And if you're serious about growth, if you're serious about success, that's the question you have to live by. It's tempting to look around and feel like you've been dealt a bad hand. Maybe you didn't grow up with support. Maybe life hit you hard early. Maybe things happened that were completely out of your control. That's real. That matters. But what matters more is what you choose to do now. Some people use their pain as fuel. Others use it as a lifelong excuse. The difference isn't in their past. It's in their perspective. Taking full responsibility means acknowledging that no one is coming to save you. No one is going to care about your future more than you do. And that's not meant to be discouraging. It's meant to be liberating. Because it means you don't have to wait anymore. You don't have to hope someone gives you a chance. You can create your own opportunity. You can write your own rules. You can rise, not because everything is perfect, but because you've decided not to waste another second waiting for the stars to align. When you take ownership of your choices, your mindset, your habits, you start to feel a shift. You start to realize that you can't control everything, but you can control how you respond. You can control whether you rise early or hit snooze, whether you invest your energy into something that builds you or something that numbs you, whether you show up with discipline or drift through the day in autopilot. These aren't small decisions. They are the building blocks of your future. Responsibility is the gateway to freedom. It's not the easy path, but it's the only path that leads anywhere worth going. Desire is powerful. It's the spark that lights the fire. But desire without action is nothing more than a fantasy. Wanting something doesn't make it real. Wishing for success, for change, for a better life, none of that matters unless it's backed by movement, by effort, by relentless commitment. So many people confuse desire for progress. They think that because they feel motivated, they're doing something, but feelings fade, action doesn't. We've all had moments when inspiration hits. You see someone doing what you dream of doing. You read something that lights a fire in your chest. You imagine the life you want, the version of yourself that finally broke through, and for a moment it feels real. But then the feeling passes, the world creeps back in, and nothing changes. Why? Because you didn't take the next step. Because you mistook the emotion of desire for the discipline of action. Discipline is what moves you forward when motivation disappears. It's what keeps you grinding when no one's clapping for you, when no one sees the effort, when progress feels invisible. People think successful individuals are constantly inspired. They're not. They just keep showing up, especially when they don't feel like it. They've trained themselves to act beyond how they feel. That's what separates those who make it from those who just dream about it. Dreams are important, but they are only the blueprint. Building anything real takes sweat. It takes repetition, failure, learning, and the courage to keep going even when the results are slow. Too many people stop the moment it gets hard. They start a business but quit when it doesn't explode in 6 months. They commit to fitness but fall off when the scale doesn't move fast enough. They pursue a goal but give up the second self-doubt whispers in their ear. That's the gap between desire and discipline, and it's where most dreams die. You have to stop romanticizing the idea of success and start respecting the process of success. It's not about grand gestures or sudden breakthroughs. It's about small, consistent actions repeated over time. It's about showing up when you'd rather take the day off. It's about saying no to temporary pleasure in pursuit of lasting fulfillment. That's not glamorous, but it's real. And it's necessary. Everyone wants the results. Few are willing to endure the work required to earn them. Desire says, I want it. Discipline says, I'm willing to suffer for it. Wanting isn't rare. Everyone wants to be successful, respected, happy, and free. What's rare is the person who chooses action over excuses, effort over comfort, persistence over perfection. That person doesn't just want change, they live in a way that demands it. Desire is a good place to start, but it's a terrible place to stop. If you're serious about your goals, if you're done playing small, then you have to prove it, not with your words, not with your dreams, but with your discipline. Most people are not limited by their lack of potential. They're limited by their willingness to use it. They have the ability, the ideas, the vision, but they hold themselves back. They dim their own light to stay comfortable, to avoid judgment, to not stand out too much. They play small not because they aren't capable of more, but because they've convinced themselves that staying safe is better than risking failure. The tragedy isn't that people fail. The tragedy is that they never even try. There's a voice inside that whispers, "You could do more. You were made for more." But most people don't listen to that voice. They drown it out with distractions, routines, and excuses. They tell themselves they're being realistic, responsible, or patient. But underneath those words is fear. Fear of success, fear of attention, fear of becoming someone they no longer recognize. It's not the fear of falling that keeps people stuck. It's the fear of rising and what that rise might cost them. We live in a world that conditions us to be modest, to stay in line, to not rock the boat. And while humility has its place, there's a difference between being humble and hiding. There's a difference between staying grounded and staying invisible. Too many people shrink themselves to fit into spaces they've outgrown. They lower their standards, silence their opinions, and delay their goals so they don't make others uncomfortable. But in doing so, they become uncomfortable with themselves. Every time you suppress your potential, you send a message to your subconscious that you're not ready, not worthy, not enough. And the more often you send that message, the more you believe it. It becomes a loop. You don't act because you don't believe in yourself, and you don't believe in yourself because you never act. Breaking that loop takes courage. It takes a decision to stop waiting for permission and start showing up fully, even when it feels awkward, even when it draws attention. Greatness doesn't come from staying invisible. It comes from leaning into your strengths, even when they scare you. It comes from owning your talents, even when others don't understand them. It comes from being bold enough to chase something bigger than what's easy, familiar, or safe. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not necessarily more talented. They're just more committed to showing up. They're more willing to be seen, to be judged, to be misunderstood, because they know that living a watered-down version of life isn't living at all. You weren't meant to play small. You weren't designed to blend in. Your vision, your voice, your perspective, it's all uniquely yours, and the world doesn't benefit from it unless you use it. Stop hiding behind humility. Stop waiting for everything to feel perfect. You will never feel fully ready, and that's the point. Growth happens in the stretch in the space between who you are and who you're capable of becoming. Playing small may feel safe, but it comes at the cost of fulfillment. There's a moment in every person's life when they feel the weight of time. It could be a birthday, a failure, a quiet moment alone, something that makes them stop and realize how quickly life is moving. In that moment, something clicks. The excuses that once sounded convincing begin to lose their power. The distractions that once filled the day start to feel hollow. The gap between where you are and where you want to be becomes impossible to ignore. That moment is your turning point. It's not loud or dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause, but it's real and it's powerful. The question is whether you'll listen to it. Most people let that moment pass. They feel it, they recognize it, and then they go right back to their routine. It's easier that way. It's safer. But deep down, they know something has changed. The discomfort grows, the frustration builds, and eventually they either numb it with distractions or use it as fuel to finally move. The difference between the life you're living and the life you could be living often comes down to what you do when that turning point appears. There's always a choice. You can keep repeating the same patterns, staying in the same cycle, telling yourself the same story, or you can make the uncomfortable decision to break the pattern. Change doesn't start with a big move. It starts with a clear decision. A line drawn in the sand that says, "I'm done settling." It starts with a mindset shift, a new level of honesty with yourself, a refusal to continue living beneath your potential. That decision is the seed of transformation. People love the idea of change, but they hate what it requires. It requires letting go of old habits, walking away from comfort, being willing to feel uncertain and out of control. It requires waking up earlier, working when no one's watching, staying focused when the world is full of distractions. It requires consistency when motivation disappears. And more than anything, it requires you to stop waiting for a sign and become the sign. A year from now, your life will reflect the choices you made today. Not the dreams you talked about, not the goals you wrote down, the choices. What you did when you were tired. What you did when you didn't feel like it. What you did when no one else believed in you yet. Those choices build momentum, and momentum builds transformation. One small step, one decision, one act of courage can trigger a complete shift in your path. That's how turning points work. They aren't about massive changes overnight. They're about changing your direction by just a few degrees and then committing to that new direction every single day. There will always be reasons to wait. There will always be obstacles, doubts, and distractions, but there won't always be time. Every turning point has an expiration date. If you ignore it too long, it fades. You go numb to it. And life goes on, with or without you making the leap to Elmont.